Outer Banks is a random yet highly successful gem in Netflix's foray into coming-of-age young adult content. With nothing even resembling promotion, one day this show popped up on your page, maybe you saw the shirtless boys, the surfboards, or oceanic backdrop, and decided to give it a shot. Apparently a lot of us did, because Outer Banks bounced around Netflix's top 10 for weeks after its initial release. The premise revolves around 16-year-old pseudo-orphan John B. and his quest to find out the truth about his father's disappearance. His discoveries lead him to continue his father's hunt for the $400 million worth of British gold thought to have gone down with the Royal Merchant Ship, presumably lost at sea in 1829. With the help of his three friends, JJ, Pope, and Key, as well as his love interest, Sarah, John B. gets drawn into a deadly chase that will leave him literally fighting for his life. A number of B and C storylines round out the narrative, such as Sarah's growing disillusionment and detachment with the privileged mentality, the shifting relationship dynamics of the Pogues, even the burgeoning sociopathic tendencies of Sarah's brother, Rafe. Weave everything together and we have a tense, humorous, heartbreaking, expertly paced 10 hours of television, completely deserving of all of its subsequent attention. But it begs the question of why Outer Banks attracted such a massive, rabid audience. It certainly doesn't broach any subjects that haven't been addressed in teen drama's past. Partying with wild, reckless abandon, the conflict of shifting loyalties, minimal parental influence, the endless supply of unrealistically attractive characters. Outer Banks explores elements such as identity, rebellion, love, loss, and survival, themes that are common and familiar in most shows. You'd expect combining all of these elements would produce an unsophisticated, paper-thin hybrid of any one of the teen drama programs we've already seen. But from the opening sequence of the very first episode, Outer Banks just feels different. In this video, I'll be explaining how Outer Banks uses setting with specific emphasis on proximity to the sea to establish tone and convey central themes. Quick warning, this video will contain spoilers, so if you've yet to check out Outer Banks, take a quick trip to Netflix and be sure to come back. The opening sequence of Outer Banks consists of our protagonist, John B., taking us viewers on a visual tour of his world. He highlights the class division that defines the island. There's the affluent side known as Figure 8, where the Kooks rule, and the working class side known as the Cut, where the Pogues and John B. reside. And we see both of these worlds through John B.'s eyes. We meet his friends in a montage of scenes, all in their natural habitat. They work, they fish, they lounge, they surf, living a presumably comfortable, if impoverished, existence. John B. foreshadows the coming-of-age conflicts that would develop over the course of the show by explaining each character's relationship with their parents or other figures of authority. He foreshadows the class differences that will come to define the show as well. Yet, despite its central presence throughout nearly every scene in the entire opening sequence, John B. makes no specific mention of the ocean. Independent of Outer Banks, the ocean has a number of symbolic meanings, at least to humans. In dreams, for example, oceans are interpreted as the dreamer attempting to face negativity or uncertainty. The ocean is a vast, endless, seemingly infinite body of water, symbolic of perpetual beauty, mystery, danger, and the chaotic. It's no wonder why the ocean tends to attract adventurous and thrill seekers. Eventually, John B. and his friends find themselves under that umbrella in the pursuit of this treasure, but in the beginning of the series, especially in the pilot episode, whereas the Kooks use the ocean for leisure and pastime, for the Pogues, the ocean is an extension of their home. We should consider this in the context of the show. The ocean is a dynamic entity. It's uncontrollable, unpredictable. It can be calm one moment, then violent the very next, peaceful, then deadly, and the transition can take all of a second. Outer Banks uses a stark color scheme to highlight this contrast. When the sea is calm, and in turn when John B. and his friends are at peace, the scenes have a yellowish sepia tone quality to them, meant to denote creativity, happiness, and optimism. Alternatively, when things are in flux, like the hurricane that sets the pilot episode's events into motion, the scene is shot in electric blue, characteristic of the chaos and destruction. Outer Banks uses the sea to represent the instability of human behavior and the unpredictability of human interactions. One of the things we learn about the Outer Banks is that there are generations of anger and resentment simmering beneath the surface of both of these communities, and all it takes is one momentary spark to set those feelings ablaze. We see this in the turning point of the pilot episode. After John B. and his friends take a gun and a wad of cash, they throw a keg party in an effort to maintain a sense of normalcy. During the party, JJ offers Sarah Cameron, Kook Princess, a drink while she's with her boyfriend Topper. Topper throws the drink in JJ's face, which prompts a shoving match between the two. John B interjects, things escalate, and what appears to be a typical alcohol/testosterone-induced adolescent scuffle instantly morphs into something charged and deadly as Topper actually holds John B.'s head underwater. And if it's even possible, the drama is ratcheted up another level when JJ, fed up with being pushed around and disrespected, and concerned for his friend, holds the stolen gun to Topper's head. He fires into the air and orders the Kooks to get off their side of the island, thus setting off the Kooks versus Pogue conflict that'll run throughout the series. Outer Banks shows us the budding and maturing sociopathic tendencies of the series' antagonists, Ward Cameron and his son Rafe Cameron. First, let's talk about Ward. A successful businessman and family man, Ward knows how to use his power position and sociable demeanor to hide the darkest parts of himself. In other words, he knows how to hide in plain sight. No one would suspect that Ward is a serial murderer in pursuit of the same treasure that the entire island called John B's father crazy for. It's telling that, when pushed, Ward can go from that affable person to a malicious killer in a matter of seconds. There's a scene after Ward discovers John B has found the treasure. He takes him out on his boat in hopes of manipulating him into revealing the treasure's location. The conversation begins friendly, but when John B continues to feign ignorance, Ward cannot contain his dark side. It's like a switch is flipped. Don is the pillar of community with the winning smile that we've come to know. Ward engages John B in a deadly chase that ends with him shot in the arm with an arrow and John B racing off on a speedboat, and he immediately re-embraces his rational side in an effort to clean up the mess he's made. Now on to Rafe Cameron. While it may seem like Rafe's escalation to cold-blooded murder comes out of nowhere, Outer Banks hints at his instability and resentment from the moment we first see him bashing his sister Sarah to her boyfriend Topper. Rafe is on the cusp of manhood. He, like many coots, has been spoiled all his life by his father, thus giving him a reckless sense of entitlement. Ward's growing pressure for Rafe to leave the nest, as well as his pesky drug habit, nurtures his violent tendencies that he most likely inherited from his father. Eventually, he graduates from adolescent mischief to the murder of a sheriff. Ward, a witness to the murder, is both shocked and horrified that his son is capable of the same self-serving violence that he is. But Rafe's been tossed into a world in which he's not equipped to endure on his own, and he'll use whatever means available to him to survive, even murder, and he learned that from his father. But no scene exemplifies Outer Banks' symbolic use of the ocean better than the climactic scene in the last episode. John B has been falsely accused of murder. The fortune he discovered has been stolen by Ward, and a multi-agency manhunt is out to bring him down. John B reunites with Sarah, and they have no choice but to drive into the middle of a storm. The waves are strong, and John B struggles to maintain control of the boat, even as the thrashing waves are fighting to take him down. It's a direct relation to where John B has found himself in the plot, fighting for his freedom, fighting for everything that has been taken from him, his father, his fortune, even against these insurmountable circumstances. He feels like the entire world is against him, but his last words are a warning right before the boat capsizes. He will never stop fighting. Loss is one of the central themes of Outer Banks. The entire show revolves around this lost treasure thought to have gone down with the lost wrecked ship, the Royal Merchant. Similarly, a major part of John B's arc is coming to terms with losing his father. It's not revealed until later, but John B's father met his death chasing the lost treasure from the Royal Merchant. The treasure was presumably lost at sea, and John's father was as well. But John B not only lost his father, he lost the last of his innocence and childhood idealization. When John B picks up where his father left off, he's as fanatical and overzealous as he was, worrying his friends. But John B's pursuit of the treasure is indicative of his search to redefine his identity that was lost with his father's disappearance. In fact, that's what binds these friends, and eventually what bridges the gap between them and Kook Princess Sarah. They're all fighting to define themselves in this world that they've been dropped into. It's a theme that often characterizes teen dramas. In connection with the ocean, John B is searching for something. His father, his treasure, himself, that has an infinite number of possibilities as to where it could be. To know something exists with no clue as to where to find it leads to thoughtless risks and doomed pursuits. When put in direct relation to the ocean, the concepts of loss and abandonment are magnified. Outer Banks has a wealth of imagery indicative of how quickly and effortlessly the ocean consumes, especially in terms of explorers who embark on journeys without knowing their limits or where their quest could lead. John B, his father, Ward, they all get consumed with their quest for wealth and notoriety, which drives them to extreme deadly lengths. In the pilot episode, when John B and his friends surf the waves prior to Hurricane Agatha, John B catches sight of a boat caught in the waves. Later, while goofing around, the foursome's boat gets caught by that same boat now underwater, and JJ is suddenly catapulted into the ocean. The ocean on which they spend most of their leisure time could just as quickly engulf and consume them without leaving a trace that they had ever even been there. If John B and his friends had not happened upon that boat, there's no indication that it would have ever been found. Who knows what treasures are hidden in the massive ocean, just waiting for someone to happen upon them. Outer Banks' use of the sea is not like any other drama. The ocean is not an idle backdrop for frolicking or adolescent antics. It's not a means of momentary escape, an environment to which a conflicted character retreats in search of clarity or reason. Half of Outer Banks takes place on the ocean. It's as much a home to John B and his friends as the dry land, if not more. The water is a place where they're free of the crippling self-doubt, sense of inferiority resulting from decades of class division plaguing their island, where they're not surrounded by constant reminders of their bleak circumstances, whether that be inadequate guardians, sparse dwellings, or obstinate prejudicial mindsets. where they aren't constantly reminded of how little power they wield compared to the wealthy and privileged. Outer Banks uses the sea as a means of relief, exploration, possibility. Teens who have gone their entire lives being told, verbally and otherwise, that they have nothing, that they mean nothing, that they have no future beyond what's in their immediate vicinity. On the water, while John B. and his friends encounter unspeakable danger, they also find hope. A wealth of possibilities as vast as the sea itself. And given John B. and Sarah are headed to Nassau by the series' end, we might get a chance to see just how far they get.